We're given this function h of x that's defined in two pieces. The first piece is for x values between -2 and 2 and including the values -2 and 2. And that definition is h of x equals x to the second power minus 4. Now when the x values are greater than 2, the definition of the function is h of x equals x minus 2. And there are no values of x that are smaller than -2. It's undefined in that region. They asked us to find the sketch of this graph using a graphing calculator, then to determine what the x values, the domain is, and the y values, the range. So we're going to use a graphing calculator, and we have one online we can use, and we're going to do this graph. So let's go to our calculator. Okay. And we're going to just plug in our functions. Let me make this a little broader so you can see it. Maybe a little bit lower. Okay, now let's check it out. This is the function h of x is equal to x to the second power, and then we subtract 4. Let's see what that looks like. Now we didn't restrict the domain. That's all the domain, but we're really only interested in this part of the function from x equals -2 to x equals +2. So just imagine that the other portion, the portions of the parabola left of -2 and right of +2 are just not there. Now let's also consider the other part of the function, h of x equals x minus 2. That's the part we use when x values are greater than 2. So for this line that we just graphed, you can imagine that all the values less than -2 are not appearing. So we just have a happy face parabola that starts at x equals -2. It passes through -4 on the y-axis. It goes up to +2 on the x-axis, and then it just stops. And then we have this line that starts at 2 and moves out towards the right, all the way out through the x values, all the way through infinity. Okay, so let's close this back down. We'll close the graph back down and go back to what we were working on. Let's see. Close that. And we were a little bit shorter. Something like that. Let's see what it looks like when we go back. Okay, that's where we were. So we're going to take those two graphs and put them together to come up with the combined graph of this function that has a strange definition. And what we're going to see is we're going to have the parabola from -2x to +2x, and it passes through -4 on the y-axis. So we have solid dots at -2 and +2 on the x-axis. And then, of course, we have the line moving to the right after x equals -2. Okay, so the parabola, which is actually a parabola that's been shifted 4 units down. And then for the other part, we have the line y equals x minus 2. It has an x-intercept when we let y equals 0, x is equal to 2, so we have the ordered pair 2, 0 for the x-intercept. So we're going to draw those together, and we're only interested in values of x from x equals -2 to x equals +2, and then all the way out to infinity. So looking at the graph, there's the parabola from -2 to +2, and then from +2 out to infinity, we see that portion of the line. Domain, all possible x values, includes -2, boxy bracket, out to infinity. The range, the smallest y value, includes -4. There's a spot there, a dot, so it's -4 boxy bracket out through infinity.